The waves, it's a pretty short video.
If you've been around long enough, you've probably encountered this image, the Great Wave off Kanagawa, by Japanese artist Katsushika Hokusai. From its humble origins in 1831, it has since gone on to become one of the most reproduced paintings in history. Few other works have managed to captivate our attention with such striking elegance and power. Due to how closely intertwined Japanese culture is with such events, many onlookers over the years have assumed that the Great Wave is depicting a tsunami. However, modern research suggests that Hokusai's illustration may actually feature something entirely different.
Japan's a pretty hard spawn.
Which, in some regards, is even
not as hard
more
as India though.
Oh yeah, I've seen it before.
One which we have only just begun to understand. For the first 90% of our existence, the ocean served as an impassable barrier, restricting us to the Eurasian landmass. It was only through the onset of Ice Age events when we could access new territory through temporary land bridges. Islands and especially remote places continued to elude us for millennia. The prospect of crossing deep water for long distances proved far too daunting until significant strides in watercraft could be made. It took until 5,000 years ago before the Caribbean islands saw their first inhabitants. Madagascar was reached just 2,500 years ago, and New Zealand only saw its first settlers within the last millennium. Even then, no one else on the planet had any idea that these places existed.
I know, right?
Only after the advent of maritime trade routes did the true scope of civilization become known.
Chat, isn't at one point they broke this like Egypt or whatever? They control the spot and then they man-made some hole.
By the 1500s, man would successfully circumnavigate the globe.
How does he know this?
Allowing for the creation of the first comprehensive world maps. When it comes to old maps, it's interesting to watch them gradually start to become more accurate over time. But what's more interesting is a little detail which began to appear on many of them. During the Age of Discovery, it was common for some cartographers to include illustrations of sea monsters in the more vast stretches of ocean. As the number of transcontinental voyages increased, a few ships would never reach their destination. With no way of knowing what happened to them, our imaginations were left to run wild. And so, the ocean would earn its reputation as a place of great mystery and mythology. It was common for seafaring cultures to attribute the cruelty of the ocean to some kind of vengeful deity.
I mean, who wouldn't?
The unknowable vastness of the sea sparked wild speculation of fantastical lands waiting to be discovered.
Chat. Why is Poseidon a myth, but Jesus is not a myth?
The ocean as home to monstrous beings beyond our comprehension. From the colossal ship-devouring Leviathan to the unsettling temptation of sirens, whose irresistible song will lure sailors to their doom. The sea continues to tempt us to this day. For as long as maritime trade has been logistically viable, the rich and powerful have gravitated towards the water's edge. In the modern day, waterfront property continues to reign supreme as the most desirable real estate on the planet. Despite the ocean's adversarial role in our history,
why doesn't
we sure
own a
do
jet?
love being near it. Perhaps it satisfies some latent desire to flirt with the uncontrollable. It seems like everyone wants to come to the water until all of a
sudden... he always sits on his chair. He'll never go out.
You want to be close to the water, but not too close to the water, because then you get the trash, the smell, the salt, the sand, just kind of close, just so you can see it, not too close. Like a fire, like a fire.
To us. As many in America have ventured closer to the coast, the Cascade Indians have...
If XUC gets a yacht and he lives and he live streams in the yacht, he'll never get raided ever again. He'll never get raided. That's genius. He just needs better internet.
Inland. Their ancestral wisdom warns of a terrible tragedy for those who fail to respect the power of the sea. The legend they follow is very much based on a real incident. The Cascadia tsunami of 1700, an event so destructive that its effects were observed more than 4,500 miles away in Japan. In recent times, a tsunami of comparable strength occurred in 2004 off the island of Sumatra, where a magnitude 9.2 earthquake triggered a wall of water up to 100 feet tall.
What?
Coastlines near the epicenter were inundated as far as 2.5 miles inland. Currently, it stands as the deadliest natural disaster of the 21st century, resulting in fatalities as far away as South Africa. For the modern world, it was a stark reminder of just how frightening the ocean
What the
can
hell is
still
so
be.
crazy? What?
Tsunamis are the most well-known of the extreme wave phenomena lurking out in the open water. The word tsunami is often used interchangeably with tidal wave, although this is a misnomer. While there's no concrete definition for what a tidal wave actually is, the terminology most closely refers to a tidal bore, sizable waves which funnel into narrow tributaries. Unlike tsunamis, which are tectonic in origin, tidal bores are driven by rising tides resulting from the gravitational pull of the moon. And while bores are far less destructive overall, they still have the potential to be deadly.
That's kind of complicated.
They are most common in waterways with powerful tidal flow, such as the
hard to
Bay of
understand.
Fundy, home to the highest tidal range on Earth.
Gravity and all that
One of the
shit.
most
Crazy, actually,
notable
what the fuck?
bores can be found on the Amazon River. Known by the locals as Pororoca, the strongest tides of the year create a seemingly never-ending wave, one which spawns at the edge of the Atlantic and travels hundreds of miles upstream.
That's wicked.
Fortunately, tides are predictable enough that they don't tend to cause much harm on their own. However, they become far more threatening when combined with another ocean phenomenon, storm surge. An effect
What is that?
produced when intense winds from a tropical cyclone push the sea inland. Depending on the direction of the wind, orientation of the coast, and strength of the tide, storm surge may produce devastating results. In 2005, Hurricane Katrina triggered a
Miami.
peak storm surge of 27 feet along the Gulf Coast. The widespread flooding would contribute to the costliest damage of any storm in
What?
U.S. history. Their estimated height was monumental, believed to be in excess of 100 feet.
Okay, bro,
After
chill.
hearing the testimony, the scientific community was highly skeptical. The understanding of physics at the time found it impossible for any wave to exceed
pretty
even a
sus.
third of the height that D'Urville had reported. The concept alone was treated as ludicrous. Colossal waves spawning way out in the open water that are magnitudes taller than all the others. It sounded like a fairy tale. And so, the matter was almost entirely ignored. That was until 169 years later.
That's when I was born,
when the
yo.
Draupner natural gas platform
way,
in
he's
the
that
North
old?
Sea recorded something
My
unusual.
juicer.
At approximately 3
Our
p.m. on
juicer is getting
January
old.
1st, the platform clocked a passing wave with a maximum height of 84 feet, more than twice as tall as the standard wave height in the surrounding area. The facility was equipped with state-of-the-art instruments, meaning that this time, the reliability of the reading was indisputable. All of a sudden, the idea of Jules D'Urville's colossal wave was no longer make-believe.
Hold on.
Pushing
The
30.
anomaly sparked widespread scientific interest. It fell completely outside of predictive models at the time, prompting a reevaluation of entire fields of study. The phenomenon would come to be known as rogue waves, which would
But the
soon
guy
be
said waves,
recognized
multiple.
as the largest open water waves the Earth is capable of producing. Tsunamis, while formidable near the coast, behave quite differently over deep stretches of ocean. The only other waves that come close are certain kinds of breakers which occur near the shore. These waves are famous for attracting daredevil
Ooh.
surfers looking to experience the ride of a lifetime.
I thought that was real. Some guy just died.
Places where the depth of the sea floor rises steeply, forcing the momentum of the water upward. This effect is most noticeable off the coast of Nazaré, Portugal, which sits at the receiving end of an enormous underwater
XCC.
canyon. It was there in
He's so
2020
twisted,
where
you got it
Sebastian
twisted.
Stuttner set the record for the tallest wave ever surfed, overcoming an 86-foot behemoth. Spectacles like this offer us a rare reference point to understand the staggering scale
Chat-
of rogue waves.
Chat, isn't a big part of this the perspective of the photo taken or whatever? Because I've seen the same thing at a different perspective and it doesn't look the same at all.
Stuttner's record-setting wave was roughly equivalent in size to the Draupner wave.
I mean, no.
Edited.
Look.
He's saying he's
Look,
edited.
It's like at a slant.
The
Look at it.
FOV, man.
Can you see it? Look at the sea at the back. Or at the ocean. Look at it.
Stuttner's
could be.
record-setting wave was
Maybe they
roughly
use
equivalent
high
in
FOV.
size to the Draupner select few lighthouses. In 1985, the Fastnet Lighthouse in Ireland was struck by a wave estimated to be in excess of 150 feet. In 1914, a lighthouse keeper at Trinidad Head, California observed one wave pull even with the top of the structure, 175 feet above sea level. Potentially the tallest wave on record flooded the Eagle Island Lighthouse in 1861. It was powerful enough to smash the window panes on the upper level. For this to be the case, the wave would have had to surmount the 87-foot tower as well as the 133-foot cliff underneath,
What?
culminating in an unthinkable 220-foot monster. But believe it or
Holy.
not, there's an even more infamous case of a suspected rogue wave striking a
Giga Chat
lighthouse.
wave, guys.
Followers of the macabre may be familiar with the unsolved
someone said it
mystery
in
of the
chat.
Flannan Isle
What the
lighthouse
hell?
keepers, an incident concerning 3 watchmen who disappeared without a trace. Since it was first reported in 1900, the disappearance has sparked wild theories as to how a crew of seasoned veterans could meet such an unforeseen demise. Fascinatingly, the recent advancements in understanding rogue waves have provided a plausible solution to the now century-old mystery. Damage found on the western part of the island corroborates an encounter with a mammoth wave, which we now know to be possible. As it turns out, the study of rogue waves has inspired a re-evaluation of numerous other historical incidents, particularly in the forensic analysis of shipwrecks. In 1978, the MS München suffered a catastrophic failure resulting in the total loss of the ship and her crew. The German cargo
whole
vessel
crew?
was considered state-of-the-art at the time, making its demise highly unusual. It took another 25
Dunzo.
years until a rogue wave emerged as the most plausible cause of the tragedy. A similar conclusion would be reached about the sinking of the MV Derbyshire, the largest British vessel to ever be lost at sea. A closer review of various maritime logs revealed that rogue waves were quite
so
a bit
sad.
more common than originally thought. Across the 20th century, numerous voyages had reported run-ins with the phenomenon, including the ill-fated Lusitania. The surprising frequency of
I've heard about
encounters
that.
raises the question of how it took so long for the matter to be investigated.
XQC, you're so
It's
smart.
a question which leads to a rather disturbing implication. It would seem that the reason rogue waves were rarely ever reported
people died.
was due to how those who saw them almost never lived to tell the tale. With the power to capsize even our modern-day steel vessels, the wooden ships of old hardly stood a chance. Across the history of maritime travel, it's entirely possible that rogue waves may have been the most unsurvivable force that any sailor could encounter.
Shit.
They have likely contributed to countless fatalities that we may never be able to realize. The remarkable difficulty of documenting rogues presents a significant challenge in studying them. They occur so randomly and infrequently in the wild that scientists can sparsely measure them with any sort of reliability. Regardless, the potential risk that rogue waves pose to the ship
Chad, why don't they equip the fucking
he posted at the worst
satellites,
moment.
whatever, with little buoys, and they drop them into the water
industry has
everywhere on the
invested
globe,
interest
just like the
that they are
satellites.
understood further.
What is he
Currently,
talking about,
there are
guys?
numerous theories
They
as to the
take
specific
measurements.
cause of the phenomenon.
No
Some
idea.
researchers believe the matter to be as simple as constructive interference. Others consider more complex dynamics at play. But until substantial strides in data collection can be achieved, it's unlikely that we will reach any sort of definitive conclusion. Rogue waves, at least for the time being, continue to be quite the enigma. The same could be said for the ocean as a whole, most of which remains vastly unexplored. After all this time, it still has the uncanny ability to make our imaginations run wild. Despite all of our progress towards mastering the sea, we are constantly reminded that it must not be underestimated. To this day, the ocean persists as a profoundly daunting domain. It stands as a defiant reminder
Aliens
of how
under the
much we
water?
have yet to understand.
Oh,
At
you
any
guys
given
couldn't hear.
stands as a defiant. The ocean persists as a profoundly daunting
Keep
domain.
quiet.
It stands as a defiant reminder of how much we have yet to understand. At any given moment, only a minuscule fraction of the sea falls within the watchful eyes
The
of man.
Titanic submarine.
What lies
It's
beyond
because space is just so much cooler and more useful than discovering the sea, right?
continues to prevail as one of the last great mysteries of
cooler.
the modern age. It's impossible to know just what else may be lurking out there, waiting to be
incident,
discovered. The ocean is still full of surprises, some of which may have been hiding in plain sight all along.
Yeah, nobody wants to reach for the sea. Everybody wants to reach for the stars.
I
You
enjoyed
know what
that.
I'm saying? Good video, Emplemon.
Well, I want to see more of it. What the heck? Okay,
I wish
here
there were
comes.
more clips. Rogue
Yo,
Wave
this
videos
X on the
released.
video. But you heard my voice as well.
That us.
Anyone knows that